even in the past few days and weeks of thinking of this new challenge, there's been times where, I'm just like in my thoughts, and I'm a big overthinker sometimes. So one of my chapters was like underthink it. And like, I try to do that because I do overthink stuff so much. A big thing is just going out there and doing it. Cause like the more reps you creating this like evidence in favor of yourself. Every time you go out there and do it when you didn't maybe think you could do it, it's like, oh no, I am a badass. Like I can do these things.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bob Bay. Each week, our guest episodes, I try to put a spotlight on someone who, in my eyes, is living their most authentic life. Our guest today was born and raised in San Diego, California. He's a professional ultra runner that has ran across the U.S. and Costa Rica. He's the author of 9 for 9, the 9 lessons I learned while running across the U.S. in 9 pairs of shoes. What an absolute savage. He recently announced his next challenge, Project 608, where he's going to be completing 608 marathons in 608 consecutive days. Think about that for a second, ladies and gentlemen. Today on the podcast, Brady Silverwood. How we doing, brother?
Good. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing great, man. You are an absolute savage with this next challenge. Let me just tell you. 608 marathons. I'm like getting locked in for this one little marathon I got coming at the end in November for LA Marathon. And you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to do 608 of them in 608 days.
Hey, I mean, everyone starts from somewhere, man. Like, I'm sure we'll cover it on this episode, but there was a time where I could barely even run like 3 miles. So, like, anytime I hear anyone going for any of their running goals, I'm always like encouraging it because I know what it was like to, even be able to achieve some of those first, big goals there. So,
are you nervous at all on this challenge, or do you feel completely confident?
I'm not gonna lie, man, it scares me. This one like really scares me, but it's like a lot of like the fears and doubts that I have from it are some doubts that I've had in the past with some similar running challenges. So I mean, I was able to accomplish those and do it. So I think it's kind of just knowing the analysis paralysis, just jumping in and going for it and just trying to take it day by day. And
that's the key. Just one marathon at a time. And honestly, though, if it didn't scare you, it almost would be like, the way I would reflect on would be, am I actually pushing myself to that discomfort, or am I just like taking the easy route out? Like whenever I like find these challenges within my own life, I'm like, if it seems too attainable, what am I doing here? Is this really going to like show me the inner growth in myself? But I think the fact that you're feeling that type of, a little nervous, like, I mean, 608 marathons is a lot, but I think the keys what you just said is just take it day by day and not think about how long it's going to take to get to that 608, but just one day at a time, one marathon at a time.
Yeah, man, that's it,
man. So, it was so interesting though about your story is, and it's crazy because I did a podcast with Luke probably about 2 months ago, and your name got brought up during the podcast. And I was like, Brady Silverwood. I was like, oh yeah, I know who that guy is. And so we talked about you briefly. And I had seen so much value from when I joined the Grand Running Club back in the fall, just kind of looking for community and really just starting to get into running. But I think it's around 2018 when you're kind of in this space in your life where you're drinking a little too much, maybe you're partying, you're having fun. I mean, you're in LA. I mean, it's just part of the norm of living out here. I think this is right around the time when you had sold your company, Sunny Clothing. And you were just like, weren't motivated. You felt kind of lost without a purpose. And it was like a Saturday morning, your buddy just like pulled you out of bed and he's like, yo, you're coming to this Grand Running Club. I don't think at the time you had even ran a mile, and you're just like, all right, here we go. What first thing, what's causing you to be in this negative headspace? And then 2, how does this one Saturday run change everything for you?
Good question. So for the first one, I think I was kind of in that headspace because out of college, I'd say like my junior year in college, I still didn't know what I was going to do out of college.
Amen, brother. Me too.
Nobody knows. That's kind of, no, yeah. And it's kind of like, you feel this like, I don't know if it's indirect or direct, but like a pressure to know what the next step is and what you're gonna do. And luckily, it just kind of fell on my doorstep with Sunny Co clothing. And, I started that my senior year of college with my roommate, Alan, and did that for 2 years. And it felt like 5 or 10 years almost. And, you know, going into any other transition or deciding what you're going to do next can be difficult, because then you're almost back in that same spot of not knowing. And Sunny Co had became my identity. So when I left it, it was like, oh, well, if I'm not the bikini guy anymore, like, who am I? What am I going to do?
Not a
And
bad thing to be known for, by the way, the bikini man
yeah.
guy. I mean, I'm not mad at that. If that was my title, the bikini
Yeah,
guy,
no,
and you were going to
no, it was
University of Arizona, my God, well, that's a whole nother podcast of itself, man.
it
Sheesh.
is, it is. Yeah, so this run club, I'm telling you, man, it was unwillingly. I was hungover. Taylor brought me to the run club, and
Oh, it
I
was
think
Taylor
the
Offer that brought you to it?
Taylor offer, yeah.
Classic.
And the the only thing that I remember making me feel comfortable about going was, they said the people could run or walk 3 or 5 miles. And when I heard walk, in my head, I was like, okay, they're not like professional runners. Like,
Mm-mm.
maybe I can hang with this group and show up. I'm like the type of guy, it's weird, but like, if I'm not super good at a sport, like, I don't want to like show up and play pickup with all these guys that are amazing at basketball if I don't
Totally.
hoop, you know? And so, yeah, I was a little insecure with that, but I just was like, I'll show up. And I think I was definitely a straggler. I was probably one of the last to finish that day, but I got the 3 miles done. And it's like, anyone that, you know this because you've been a part of the club, but you finish early. It's like maybe 10:30 a.m. on a
Mm-hmm.
Saturday morning, get some breakfast, get some coffee, and you're like, you feel like you've already crushed the day on a
Mm-hmm.
Saturday when most people are still sleeping in, right? So, yeah, there's so much feeling good there that the other things I was doing, the partying and all that, like, it wasn't like that day everything changed for
Totally.
me. It was over those next couple weeks, man. I started like, I remember it was weird. One day I was like, I'm not going to go out on the Friday night because I want to be, not hungover, so I can like actually be there, be on time, get this done. And then it was like I wanted to go on other runs throughout the week. and
Wow.
and then I'm signing up for my first half marathon, just because like that language for me was so foreign. Like, I think the most I ever did was like a Thanksgiving 5K.
Yeah.
And so half marathon, marathon, like, I purposely like stayed away from that language just because I'd never thought I could do it.
Mm.
And so being around that group, I think that's what really challenged me to be like, maybe I should sign up for, because those guys are like, they'll be like, hey, I signed up for the LA Marathon. Are you gonna do it with me or what? Like, that's the energy there. So
If you're not part
uh
of it, you're like the one left behind. You're like, all right, well, I guess I'm training for it now.
yeah, yeah. How did you get roped into you're doing the LA Marathon in November?
Yeah. To kind of make a long story short, because I want to talk about you more than I want to talk about myself today.
Mm,
Um, I because the pandemic hit and like the last couple of years, I've gone through these phases where I get into running and then I kind of stopped and I was like, oh, I want to bulk up. I don't need to run, whatever. Pandemic hits and I was like, I need to find a way to work out. So I started running and that fast, it started and I barely could get a mile in, then I could barely get two. And so I kept pushing myself, joined the run club when I was kind of looking for like community. Things were lighting up with the pandemic and the run club was starting up. And I had seen people that had gone to it. So I was like, let me just go to this club. So being around that, what, now I'm thinking about it. Then I was like around people that were just like casually like, oh, we're doing a virtual half marathon. Who's signing up? And everyone's raising their hand. I'm like, I'm not running a fucking virtual half marathon. Like,
yeah.
all set with that. And so I remember the day they did the most recent virtual half marathon. It was probably about 4 or 5 months ago. I remember showing up and thinking to myself, why didn't I do that? Like, why didn't I sign up? Like, I was seeing people complete it that I had been running with the last couple of weeks. I was like, if they can do it, so can I. And so then in my mind, I was like, and I started following this YouTuber named Nick Bear Fitness. You should check him out.
Yeah, I've seen
That's
his
my
stuff.
guy.
Yeah,
That's my guy.
he's great.
So
He's
I was
great.
getting inspired by him by like seeing his ability to increase his endurance running and still like lifting. I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder, but I was like trying to like find that balance. And so I saw all the videos of him talking about running a marathon. I was just like, why don't I run a marathon? I've always told myself I wanted to run a marathon. So then in my mind, I was like, all right, I'm going to do the LA Marathon. That was supposed to be in May of this year. It gets pushed to November. And so since then, I've just been like casually upping, like every 3 to 4 weeks, I'm just like, the beginning of the year, January, I went out and ran a half marathon by myself. I was like, all right, there was like nothing timed. It was like literally just I remember calling my sister and she's like, you ran a half marathon today? Why would you do that? I'm like, because I wanted to. So
amazing.
Now I'm in that phase where like, once I get the marathon done, it's probably got to be what's the next challenge. So to me, it's just about continually to push myself. And
I've been seeing your miles, man. I've been seeing them.
Trying,
it's
man.
Inspiring.
Just pushing it. And it's taken a while though. It's like, I really remember those March of last year when I was first running those couple miles, and I was huffing and puffing after that first mile. And now I'm like laughing at myself because I'm running 5 to 7 a day. And I'm like, I could keep going. Like I'm like, after mile 2, I'm like, oh, the juice is just turning on. I'm like, I'm just starting to get into that rhythm. I mean, it as a runner.
Yeah.
But it just blows my mind how much that's become such a part of my life now. And so nothing but love for just the clarity it's brought into my life too.
Yeah, I remember so the first like half marathon I actually did was before it was a Santa Monica. That's the one I like officially signed up for, and you show up and everyone's there. But I think like a week or 2 before that, I got on a treadmill, and that was my goal. My goal was like, let's just run 13 miles. I don't care how long it takes.
That's great.
And I think I literally took like 3 hours or something. I'm on this treadmill. Probably, I think I had a random person in the gym after like take a picture of me. Because I was like, dude, can you take a pic? Like, I just did a half marathon, and I'm looking like a psycho, right? Sweating all crazy. But again, though, it was cool because like it was completely like my own thing. It seems very similar to what you did, and like, I think this whole running, what's so cool about it is like everyone has their own first half marathon, their 1st marathon, and like, it's like an individual sport, but we're so inspired by seeing other people in the sport achieving their goals too.
It's very much a personal sport, but also community at the same time, and that's like the thing that I love about it. And I think physical fitness is just like one little sample of like the lessons and values you learn from pushing your body mental, like not even your body, it's literally a mental and physical challenge. You then can replicate that to anything else that you're doing in your life. And so I think running has just been so crucial because it's also one of those things where like lifting weights, it's like, okay, cool. Like I go from 60 to 65 pounds, like that whole world, it actually takes a lot of work to even increase weight by 5 pounds, like it could take months to get up that extra 5 pounds. But with running, you can see progress really quickly as long as you stay consistent. So it's like, if you start running today, you go run a mile and you run a mile every day this week. Next week, you'll be running probably closer to 2 and then 3. And then it is on you as to how far do you want to keep going, And so
want to take it,
I think that's the coolest thing about running is like, there's just so much room for that room improvement. And then even once you get down the mileage of like, I can run a marathon, it's like, okay, how about you ran in 5? Why don't you go for 4? Well, why don't you go for 3? Why don't you go for 2.5? So there's always room for improvement, which
or under 2, like that one dude that did that. I think he did that when I was it was during my USA run. I was like in New Mexico, and we get out of this breakfast cafe, and I saw ESPN and just posted it, and I was like, what? Like I didn't even know like people were trying to get under 2 hours for a marathon.
That man was cooking at that speed. Dude, the US run though, that is like such a iconic thing to do. Like to just say full send, I'm going from one side of the country to the other. April 21st, 2019 is when you announced this to your family. You're like, hey, I saw the video. You're like, running across America. Let's do this thing. And you had said something along the lines that it had been the only thing consistent in your life since leaving the company. And obviously, as you've been talking about, there was a lot of positivity that was coming from it. But how did you land on running across the US? You could have easily just said like, I'm just going to keep running more daily, or, I know you had mentioned like you did the half marathon, you did a marathon. At some point, you did a half Ironman. Like you could have easily just like picked bigger races and challenges like
For
months out.
sure.
But why the
Yeah.
U.S.? Like, how did you land on that?
What's so oh man, like I remember like again during this time I'm trying to like figure out like what's my next big thing, and I felt like it had to be like very big. And there was like these couple days there where I was just thinking about, hey, this is pretty cool. Like I've really started to improve in running and I enjoy it and I'm getting a lot better and like I'm improving really quick with it. And what's nuts is like I didn't like when I came up with the idea to run across the US, I still had never completed a marathon. So I think I came up with the idea at the beginning of March, before the marathon, before the Ironman. And what's funny too is like I still remember while I was running the LA marathon, like in my head during that race, I was thinking about how I was maybe gonna, not do the Ironman because the Ironman was gonna be 2 weeks after that. And to be honest, my training was mostly for the Ironman, not the marathon.
Mm.
And that again just goes to show of like our minds can almost like play against us at times where it's like we'll think so far ahead when all we have to do is just focus on that next step and what we got to do.
Totally.
And sure enough, like a day after finishing the LA marathon, I'm like, oh, what was I even thinking? Like, of course I'm going out to Texas to do this half
Mm-hmm.
Ironman. So yeah, I just knew I wanted to do something big, and I don't know how else to explain it as like this one morning I just roll over in my bed, took out my journal. I would kind of journal from time to time, but then I was just like, I have the idea like someone who could barely run 3 miles, how cool would it be if that person ran 3,000? And I didn't even know if the US was 3,000, but I was like, maybe it could be me running across the US. And I looked it up and it was like, I think it's like 2,800 miles to drive across
Mm.
from New Jersey to San Diego. And I mean, I'm not very good with navigation, so my actual run came out to like 3,311
Yeah.
miles.
I was like, they
So
definitely made a
yeah,
couple of left turns, little rights.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
we're gonna have to go back
Got
the way
lost a
we
few
came.
times. No, but yeah, man. And then it was just like from the day I wrote it in my journal, I'd say less than 2 months later, I was out in New Jersey, rented an RV, called my college buddy Nate up. He was working a seasonal job, but hadn't accepted a summer job yet. So he's kind of open, and I was like, "You want to do this crazy thing with me?" And he's just always been that like go with the flow type of guy. And I
Love
knew I
that.
was like, "This is the guy. If there's a guy to help me with doing this." And he flew out to New York. I was first staying with a friend out there. Then we like Ubered to this like New Jersey RV shop. I had all my bags in hand. I remember we talked to the RV guy and we are trying to like finalize like a price for this thing and really like negotiate him down. And I think he was like, is this like your a make or break? Like, you know, to will you take any other price? And I was like, no, like this is it. Like we need it at this price and we need it right now. Like we need it today. And I think his shop was already like closed for the day and it was like 1 and it closed at noon on a Saturday. And I was like, dude, we need this today. And he was able to make it happen. And I think the majority of that was like we Ubered with all our bags, so like we were pretty much like
You literally could see
stuck
it,
in
like
New
your life
Jersey,
was
like
there.
yeah. And I kind of just towards the end of that April, I was like May 5th, want to start Cinco de Mayo, and then literally we picked a
Start with a
random spot on
margarita.
the coast. Yeah, we picked I think it was called Keensburg. It's just a small little town in New Jersey. And yeah, we're at this beach, man. It's like me and my buddy. It's rainy, stormy, maybe like two fishermen, no one else on the beach.
I saw
I
the
just
video.
walk out on the pier, kind of had some thought processing there for a little bit. And then it's funny, I just told him, I was like, here, just film something. And I had this like 4 minute just raw natural video of him filming me of like I'm about to do this thing, and like it just gives me chills thinking about it. But like it was all just off the cuff, and from there touched the water and
It was like some
started
Rocky
running
shit,
west.
man. It
Yeah,
couldn't be. It had to be the fog, the rain. Like if it was sunny and bliss on a beautiful May day in New Jersey, it would have been too good to be true. But it needed to
yeah,
be that grit. You needed to start with shitty ass
yeah,
weather on the East Coast to gear up to get ready for that run back in sunny SoCal. So I think the weather
yeah.
helped was crucial in that to
No,
jumpstart
and
it.
then I mean honestly, in the whole trip is 218 days. There's probably only like 20 rainy days, so it's kind of funny. And then I think the last day was a rainy day
Yeah.
too. So I was like, I wouldn't have it any other way at that point.
How important was Nate's role? So he's the one driving this RV. I
Yeah,
mean, clearly this is something that you need at least one person to do. If you're running, it's literally impossible to to run
yeah.
across the US and then like what are you going to do? Uber all your stuff?
Some people actually will do it solo. That's like a whole nother animal because like they'll be like pushing like a baby stroller or
Oh
something
man.
that will have their camping gear, and they'll just put up a tent and try to stay at other people's places. But
So
no, he
you
had,
can't even focus on the
yeah,
run at that point. You're thinking logistics.
yeah,
Like
right,
at
yeah,
least with him trailing you, it's just wake up,
yeah,
run, you
yeah.
know?
Um, no, but even with the other one, I've thought too, like trust me, it's a total beast. But I've even thought of like if I picked a hotel or something and say it was like 40 miles away, it's like you have no other choice. Like I'm either gonna sleep in the wilderness or make it to this hotel. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like get it done. But yeah, Nate's role was so big, man. He not only supported with, making sure everything was good with the RV. Sometimes we had to get it serviced. He had to, for fuel, trash, everything you could imagine. Constantly picking up at Walmart's food and hydration. He really was like kind of the rock out there for me. Um, and and also like when you're doing something for that long, the person that's with you, their energy is just so important. And what's funny is I kind of joke about this, but like if my mom was out there, I love my mom so much. But if she was out there, it would have taken me like 5 years to complete that. Because if I was like, mom, oh man, my legs are just killing me today, she'd be like, oh, let's take like a week
Yeah,
off,
take a week
Brady.
off, Brady. You'll be fine. Let's
There's a
get an ice
nice
cream
little
sandwich.
spa like 5 miles that way. But no, he literally, man, he let me when I needed to just let out energy. He would let me do that, and um, he would always just remind me that like I signed up for this, and I think that was always such a um, big thing for me to remember out there is like no one forced me to do this. Like I chose this life. Like I chose to do this,
Yeah.
and so if I'm complaining, it's like, come on, like, dude, you signed up for this. Why you knew what you were gonna get yourself into. And I kind of just expectations. I think a few weeks once I was into the trip, I was like, you know what? Whatever happens out here is gonna happen,
Yeah.
and I just got to roll with it and always keep that attitude of like, again, shit happens, but once it's done, it's done. Like let's keep moving forward and um, focus on what's in front of us.
Yeah. How other so I the van logistics, I understand that's totally him. He's just like making sure everything's like loaded, waters, food, gas, the whole works. But how about even just like how many miles a day? How many miles are we running today? What road are we taking? Like
Yeah.
how does that then seems like a headache? Is he like literally just driving behind you? Is he driving 10 miles out and said I'll meet you at the location or
So I'd say like the first few, maybe like first 2 weeks, honestly, he would kind of like maybe go 5 miles up, wait for me, maybe take some videos as I run by, talk to me, how you doing? Do you need anything? And then keep going. And then once we got in such a flow of things, it was kind of like I again, those first few weeks, I would plan it. I would say, you know, I think I want to get us to this church or this school or this grocery store or whatever. And then after a few weeks, I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna see how I'm feeling in the morning, and maybe right before the run, I say to him like, maybe I'll try to go like 15 today. And then it
Mm,
got to the point where I wouldn't even tell him, and I would just send him my location with like 1 mile to go. So he's just
wow.
chilling wherever he is for a
Wow.
couple hours, and then he'll just drive out to where I was at. But a big reason I started to do that is like there's so many days, Bobby, where like I'd finish, and like my goal was like 14 for the day, and I'd finish and I'd see his RV waiting there, and I would just like I would kind of like wave him off and just keep going a little more, because it's the same
Wow.
thing. You just felt like I have a little bit more in me, and
Hmm.
like that adds up, you know, even if it was just a mile each day,
Yeah.
it was like that was always such a empowering thing to like start the next day off knowing that I got that
Oh, that's
extra
good.
mile type of thing, you
Yeah,
know?
that becomes like a mental game against yourself where it's like you said you could do the 14, but you're feeling it and you're like, dude, I could go 15 or I can go 16, like go that
Yeah,
extra mile. Cause in the moment, it's like just one extra mile, but then you do that multiple times in that week, that month, that ends up being an extra 50, 60 miles or 100. And then it kind of just stacks up with time. Man,
yeah,
that is unbelievable. I know you had there was one incident where you had like an Achilles tendon injury, which I think was in Arkansas, which almost could have prevented you from completing the run, which would have been we don't even talk about it because you didn't. You kept going. It didn't
yeah,
stop you. But
yeah.
what were some of the other challenges along with that you faced along this journey? Because I loved the amount of content that you guys had posted throughout it, and it's still live on your Instagram, which people can go check out at Project 608 Official on IG. And there was definitely some that I was skimming, and I was like, you could see like you were having like literal breakdown moments because it's just doing the same thing. I mean, yeah, I just can't even imagine. So, what were some of these like challenges that you were facing along the way?
Yeah, so I mean, you touched on the Arkansas. That was actually probably the biggest one, is that Achilles injury, just because the the level of seriousness with an injury like your Achilles tendon, like, you know, I've heard about the basketball players that get out for like a full year or two with an injury like that, like a tear. And I just remember up until that point, man, I dealt with like it was almost like it became like a joke of how many times I write in my journal like, oh, now I have left ankle pain, or uh, a week later, now I got right knee pain. It was just like it was
Every day.
always, yeah. But what was cool is just like writing that down, that practice. It would teach me like a week after, I'd be like, oh, now I don't have that left ankle pain. Like at least that's better now. So you just
Wow.
kind of you get kind of in a weird sense comfortable with your body just naturally healing on its own to those like I guess situations. So yeah, that injury though was super scary, and it was the first time where I was like, I knew I'd came so far up until that point, and to think like I was almost halfway, and like it could all be over was just like super emotional. It was the first time like on the whole trip I just started crying, thinking of like, damn, like what if I'm not able to keep going with this? So and man, I just rested, iced, tried to just kind of let it take its course, and only, you know, again, control what I could control out there. And yeah, I was able to get back at it. And then I'd say the next hardest time after the Arkansas injury, I think I was in Texas, and you know, now you're getting close. Like I can start to see, you know, the next states, New Mexico, Arizona, California. And I remember I put up a days calendar in the RV of like approximately how many days I thought I was away from
Ooh,
San Diego.
bad idea.
Terrible idea. But I didn't know it, you know, I didn't know it. And so I think
Oh,
I put it up, and it started with like 70 days or something. And then I went down, and it probably got to like 67, and it just started playing with my head, man, because I was so at that point I was getting so good at like I don't care about what happened yesterday. I don't care what happens tomorrow. I'm just going to get this run done today. And
Mm,
that's all I need to do.
mm.
I was like dialed in,
Yeah, yeah.
And then what that did though is it made me like, if I had a little pain in that day, it would just make me think like, damn, I need to endure this for 2 more months. Like that's a long time, man. And so I remember one of the days, again, Nate was just so intuitive. He was like, he wouldn't like, I'm a little stubborn, so he wouldn't like, slap me in the face, but he was just like, Brady, I think it might be a good idea to take the calendar down. And then he did that, and then literally, man, the next few days were just like back on it. We were good.
I could see you both
But
like standing in the RV, and he's just like, "Yeah, Brady, we're gonna have to take down the calendar." Like it's like a serious conversation. Like that can
yeah,
almost be like a script. Like, fuck, the calendar definitely has to go, man. Take it down.
yeah, man. So no, I mean, the whole thing was just so mental, and like it is physical, but whenever I talk about it with people, like I was always kind of a believer in like, Yogi Berra was a big baseball player, and he would
Hmm.
always say how mental the sport is, and like telling you, man, it was so mental. Any day I went into the day like, today's gonna be a tough day. And then I go into the day and well, actually it wasn't that bad. But any day I was like, today's gonna be easy. I got this
Yeah,
in the bag, like a little cocky, whatever. Some shit would go down that reminds me, hey, you're running across the US, dude. This
yeah.
ain't easy. So mental, and again, just trying to like stay in the moment as much as I could. And even when I was in West Virginia, and I'll never forget this, I call it one of my best buddies, Alan. I was like, dude, I'm in West Virginia, I'm crushing it, I'm doing so well. And he was like, how far away is that, like from San Diego? And I was like, I don't know. And then he looked it up. He's like, dude, you got like 2,000 miles to go. And like everyone kept focusing on how many miles I had to go, but I
Mm,
was able to just like be pumped on how many miles I had came up until that point.
yeah.
Um, so again, it's hard to do, but again, I'm gonna try to roll with that with this next challenge because it's about to be a lot harder.
Oh
So
yeah, we're gonna get into a little bit more of that juicy stuff in a second. Um, so ultimately though, this run across takes about, I believe it was 218 days. It's about 7 months. So you leave May 5th, you land in San Diego December 8th, hits the 3,311 miles across 14 states. What There's so many, I'm sure there's so many, but what specifically did this experience teach you, and how do you hope the story impacts others that might hear about it today?
oh man, that's good. What it taught me, I think, is man, I don't know, like when I was like in high school and stuff, I was just so you know everyone has their own demons, and I had mine, and I just kind of didn't think I would like accomplish much in my life, whether it was academics or athletics, and had a lot of coaches tell me I was no good, and sat on the bench a lot in lots of sports, and had some injuries here and there. And um, I think this whole experience just reminded me that um, like we are literally capable of so much. And um, you those doubts and those demons and everything, you can still get shit done.
Mm,
um, I actually, that was like one of the chapters in my book. It was just something like, you know you can doubt yourself and still get it done. There it is.
we got it, baby.
And it's so true. Like even to this day, man, like I remember I watched a video with Usain Bolt saying something like, every time I'm about to get started with a race, I think to myself for a split second, like, do I still got it? And like when I heard that, I was just like, this is the guy who's the number one guy in the whole world, and he still has those doubts and demons. So it's like, um, yeah, I think I just learned that, like, there's there there's like one, I say this a lot, but like the one person that can tell you that you can or can't do something should be yourself.
Mm,
And I think if you really want something bad enough, you can go out there and go do it. So,
mm. How have you learned to quiet those demons? And there's a lot of different ways in which people have learned how to like kind of tone out the demons and that voice in your head that tells you you don't have what it takes, and everyone has their own way of like kind of quieting it out. Is there anything specific that's helped you?
man, I feel like, it takes a village. And I feel like I've been very fortunate to have, very supportive family and friends. And, um, like even in the past few days and weeks thinking of this new challenge, there's been times where I'm just like in my thoughts, and I'm a big overthinker sometimes. So one of my chapters was like underthink it, and like I try to do that because I do overthink stuff so much. um but yeah, I think just like whether it's writing it down or speaking it out, whether it's just like you go out in the wilderness and yell some shit, or you
Mm,
could like say it to a friend or someone who's willing to listen, and maybe just listen, because
mm,
sometimes it's like you don't even need them to say anything. You just want to get it off of your chest, kind of
yeah.
thing. um that's kind of how I've done it. And then a big thing is just going out there and doing it, because
Mm,
like the more reps you are able to, you're almost creating this like evidence in favor of yourself.
mm-hmm.
Every time you go out there and do it when you didn't maybe think you could do it, it's like, oh no, I am a badass. Like I can do these things. So
Yeah, there was a podcast I did years ago with a filmmaker out here named Matt Como, and there was a line that he said in the podcast that I still to this day remind myself of, and it kind of goes along the similar lines of this: is confidence comes from repeated action. So the more
mm,
times you repeat an action, whether it's running, podcasting, um, I mean, literally anything that you're trying to work on and get better at, the more times you do something, the more confident you're going to get at doing it. And so that's something that I try to remind myself of daily, is keep doing the work. The work
yeah,
is going to get you to the place you want to be. Um,
yeah,
but it's the easy part is to overthink it. It's to have these self doubts of like, do I actually know what I'm doing? Do I have the ability? Um, but once I think you get into that flow, it's like a domino effect. Once you take that first step, you get started, you run that first mile, as we've talked about today, run that
it's
second.
momentum
It
from
just,
there.
yeah, it just
Yeah,
hits the ground, and then
it
you're
builds.
off to the races with it. I saw that for the actual run across, you raised 40K for charities, which is amazing. 12 there's about 12 charities that had got involved. One of which was something special for you, was Make a Wish, which I know your sister had dealt with brain cancer growing up, and she was granted a wish when she was younger. What did it feel like to be on the recipient and be part of the Make a Wish Foundation?
Oh man, it was like a full circle moment there. You know, I was very young when my sister had cancer. I was about 7, 8 years old, so I didn't quite understand what was happening, but um she was just in the hospital so much, man. And
How much
what
how much old
Make-A-Wish was able,
how much older is she than you?
uh 9 years.
Oh, okay.
So she was about 16 when she
Wow.
she got cancer. And um yeah, man, there's just so much permanence, I guess, of being in that hospital or in the waiting room and playing games and whatnot. And what was so cool about that Make a Wish thing is it's like we got to go to Universal Studios. We got to go. She was a big like Gilmore Girls fan, if you
Every
remember
girl
that
was.
show.
Every girl was.
Yeah, and so we actually got to meet the cast at Warner Brothers, and that was like her wish. And the coolest part was just getting out of that hospital, just for a day or two and enjoying ourselves. And um, I have such a respect for what that organization does. So yeah, being in a position where I could give back to that was super cool. And um, again, I think anytime there was like that, again, like I was talking about, myself complaining or going inward of like, this sucks or blah blah blah, like I would just think of those charities I was running for and think of, what my I feel like our situations can always be so much more worse,
No, totally.
so just remembering that, it really helped me to
Yeah,
keep going.
it's all perspective, man, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it always can be worse. That's the reality of the situation for all of us. When I was doing the research for this, I think you had, I don't know if it was an Instagram post or if it was like an interview, but you essentially said like, we're just at the tip of the iceberg with Brady Runs the World. At the time, I think that was still your IG handle. You most recently just ran across Costa Rica. I think that originally was supposed to be Ireland, and then due to COVID restrictions and whatnot, is the plan to keep running across countries? Is that where we think we're gonna head?
Yeah, I mean, no, so okay, so that was kind of the plan, and then I was talking with my girlfriend, and she was talking about maybe doing something like every country in the world. What if you ran across every country? And I thought, well, that sounds cool, but like logistically, maybe a nightmare for me. I'm not too good with navigation. So, anyways, it kind of got me starting to think of records, and I just immediately went to like, what's the full marathon record? And I remember it. This was February 23rd of this year, 2021, and I just went straight to like Google, Wikipedia, found this guy's name, Ricardo Abad Martinez. He completed 607 marathons back in 2012. He's from Spain, and just crazy ultra runner out there. And I remember like it was kind of weird how my brain worked, but right when I saw that, I think like in my head I was like, damn, that's a lot. Like I was kind of guessing it would be like 200, 300, 400, and I was like, well, I want to beat his record, so I'll do 608. And yeah, man. So that was back in February, and since then, now I've got some national sponsors together. I hired a full-time videographer for the whole experience. So we're gonna have a YouTube channel, and
Smart.
we'll be posting on all the socials, and hopefully we'll be able to throw together a documentary for it, the whole experience. And you know, again, it's like I think there's some like I'm trying to think of what the movie was called. It was a horse racing movie
Seabiscuit?
on Netflix. No, it's a more recent one. It was about the the first girl that won the Melbourne Cup.
Okay.
But there's a part in the movie where she talks about like in horse racing, there's like a point in the race where like there's like a split second opening, like a gap, and you got to just hit the gap.
Mm.
And if you don't, then you're gonna lose the race. And I don't know why, but I feel like this challenge for me is that gap. And I feel like, I went half marathon, full marathon, USA. And now it's like, trust me, it's way higher up for this Project 608. But, I never would have imagined that I could have ran across the US. I would have laughed at you if you told me that when I was in high school or college, especially at U of A.
Mm.
And, yeah, I was not running and I was not reading books out at U of A. I'll just say that.
Mm.
But yeah, man, I feel like this is my time. This is my time to go do this, and feel very blessed to be in this situation. And um, great moments come from great opportunities. So
Mm. This is going to be an interesting challenge too, compared to the US. Obviously, completely different, but this one seems much more formulated in the sense of I'm very routine driven. So I wake up at the same time every day. I run at the same time. Like everything in my life is dialed into a routine because then I know where I'm supposed to be and when. And it's just like, it's so much easier for me. And this to me seems like a challenge where I think majority of the running you're going to be doing in Charleston, which will probably come down to being the same route, which then allows you to like not sleep in an RV and on the night and like you wake up every day. I mean, there is also the blessing of like running a new path every single day when you're running across the US. You're just seeing constant of the same all the time.
True.
So that keeps you distracted. But I think there's probably some beauty in like, I'd be kind of curious to hear like what your logistic thoughts are on how you're going to do this challenge. But to me, there is like this, like, you're going to know the area, you're going to get used to the route. You're going to know like the pitch of you're going to know where the potholes are. Like there's something about that where it's like, it allows you then to get into that rhythm where you're not thinking about everything around you and you're just solely focused on that flow of the run.
Yeah. And, the one thing that we, exactly like you said, every day was so new on the USA run. And it's like, we're running into a new town I've never been before and meeting all these new people. One thing we kind of were like, it was a little bittersweet, is when we run through a cool town, meet some awesome people, and then have to just keep going. So I hope with this challenge that the community can really like rally around what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
I think that's a big factor to like doing a similar route, so people can like really see this day in, day out, and whether they like running or not, maybe it just inspires them on their daily, whatever missions they're on,
I feel like you're going to start, once this thing gets rolling, I think you're going to have people just showing up like, you say your Monday through Friday run schedule is this time at 8 a.m. we're starting here every single day. Like, and then you're just going to show up, give it 5 minutes and then take off. Like, I feel like that's just going to become part of the, like, I mean, my sister's leaving Charleston in September, and if I make it out before she moves, I'm gonna make sure that I run at least a full marathon with you along.
You'll kill some miles with me for sure.
But I think that's like a whole nother experience to this thing, where it could be really like a community-based thing, where it's like you have people potentially flying in to be part of it, or that are in the area now, get inspired to want to start running because of it. I think it's got to be such a different.
It's got lots of potential for sure, and like those, what's so cool about that is like when I was on my USA run, there was 3 things that kind of felt like cheats in a sense. And it was whenever I was FaceTiming friends or family, I don't know why, that just helped me immensely on my runs, because like
while you're running or
braking. Let me back up here a sec, because people listening are probably like, what's he talking about? So when I first started running, I would be like huffing and puffing, not be able to talk to people on the phone. Then it got to the point where like I could talk to people on the phone and they didn't even know I was running. And now it's like I can literally FaceTime someone and keep running for like 3 miles while I'm just FaceTiming them. So what it does though is it kind of just like I stay in the flow, and then I'm just focused on what we're talking about, and that's it. And almost sometimes forget I'm even running, as weird as that sounds. So that would help me. Podcasts, I like. It's weird, when I first started running, it was music only. Would never listen to podcasts. And then now it's like podcasts are like my dessert on a run. If I can start playing the podcast, I'm like, let's go.
You're putting it at like half the speed because you want it to take the longest time. You're like, let me hear every single fucking word, because I have nothing but time to kill right now.
No, seriously, I'll like last half of a run start a podcast, and I'll be like looking forward to that during the run.
Wow.
And then the last thing is running with people, man. That's like, that's my favorite thing. And because again, it takes it away from what I'm doing, and now it's like what we're doing. Yeah. So I think what you talked about, like I've actually already had people in Charleston DMing me like saying they want to join in on it. So I think that could be a really big plus.
Yeah, I think too with obviously with a challenge like this, where it's it's literally going to be, what is that, pretty much just short of 2 years of a project.
About 20 months.
Yeah, so it's like there's going to be so many ideas that pop up along the way. Like probably by like the halfway point, there's going to be a designated Charleston police bicycle guy that's just like there to escort you every single day on your fucking run. So like things are gonna change, things are gonna evolve as the project gets going. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it sounds unbelievable. When you sent me the link to it, I was like, this guy is absolutely insane. But like at the same time, it's like it's the coolest thing in the world to push it and go, I'm gonna go accomplish this record.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, man. I first thought too, like maybe half marathon, and I've even had like those have been some doubts in the past few weeks. Like, oh, maybe I should do the half marathon record instead. But it's like
Nah, go big.
if I'm gonna go for it, I go for it all. So
Yeah,
yeah, this is it, man.
I like that mentality. That's incredible. If you could run a mile with anyone alive today, who would it be?
Oh man, so alive, they got to be alive,
Totally.
right? Yeah. All right, David Goggins.
Oh, let's
man.
go. Let's go. That's the first. I didn't even. So I wrote the question down, and I didn't even think about who I would answer. But as soon as I said it to you right now, I was like, "What is my answer?" And David Goggins is the first person that came to mind.
Yeah, I just think that would. I mean, dude, like I was in New Mexico and on my USA run, and I remember I like called up my buddy Nate and was like, dude, Goggins just posted this crazy video. It's like he was doing some like, one of his crazy 200-mile races, and I think they like sent him to maybe he went the wrong route or something, and then he had like elevation sickness, and they sent him to doctors, and then he went back on the course.
I know what you're
And
talking
then they're
about.
playing some Rocky music in the background, bro.
Yeah.
And I literally just kept on my run, playing, rewinding, playing it again. And I actually almost linked with him when I was in Nashville, Tennessee, because maybe he's from there. I don't know, but we were in email back and forth, and it just so happened he had some conference that weekend, wasn't able to do it. But man, like even just like preparing mentally to run with him was like, it felt like I was like, I feel like he just puts you on another level,
Oh
man.
yeah, there's no question about it. Have you?
Yeah, if you're getting that energy just from watching his videos, like imagine Goggins just like, what do you mean you're done? Like,
have you read his book
keep
yet?
running.
Have you read his book yet?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my God,
yeah. So good.
he's so good. Does he know? Have you emailed him about the Project 608?
Haven't yet. I have not yet. Yeah,
I
yeah.
calling it right now, and I'll pull this clip when it happens. He's gonna be running a marathon with you on that 608. There's no question in my
Oh
mind.
man, that'd be
No
crazy.
question
That'd be
about it.
crazy.
He's gonna run a marathon with you on Project 608.
Wow, that would be epic.
It's gonna happen. It is definitely gonna
Yeah,
happen.
I just love his like philosophy, man. On like, I mean, from reading the book, that guy's been through so much, and just choosing that like, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna let what the outside world thinks of me change the way I think of myself or the way I live my life.
Yeah.
And just like I'm gonna be like the baddest dude out there. He yeah, so many lessons you can get from how he lives his life.
Yeah, he's the man, dude. I'm a big Goggins fan. What
Yeah.
what advice would you give for those that are looking to live a healthier fitness lifestyle? I mean, we've heard it today. It took one Saturday, but then obviously it wasn't like 360, everything changed overnight. It was that one moment where you clearly decided and told yourself, like, I'm seeing benefits from doing this. I should do this more, and you kept going to it. What's the advice you'd give to somebody that is looking to make that change and have a healthier fitness lifestyle?
So that's a great question. I think a lot of us like we know what's good for us and what's not good for us. Um, and once you really become aware that you want to just change everything, so you're like only doing the good stuff. And um, I think just having a healthy relationship. Sometimes I even think about like with food, for example. I've been like gone vegan at times and vegetarian and like switched up my diet a whole lot. And there's been so many times where like I'm just thinking about the food so much that maybe I'm not even enjoying it or thinking of how it can be healthy for me and nourishing. And um, sometimes I think it's like uh, just seeing what your relationship is with it. And you know, with running, I think you can, at least when I first started running, it was just to kind of like let off some steam and some stress, and that was a way I was able to do it. And before then, I never even did therapy or anything like that. And then that's led to me going down that way, and even maybe doing some meditation here and there.
Mm.
So um, yeah, I'd say a, a big thing is like, I think you want to do it all at once. And what that can cause is like, you're like, oh, I should do this every day. And then you don't do it one day. And then you're like, oh, I'll just go back to my old lifestyle. I think
Mm.
like, you know, slowly getting into it and seeing what works for you. I mean, everyone's different,
Yeah.
you know. Maybe running isn't for you. Maybe like power walking is your thing, you know.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, man, I love it when people tell me like, hey, you got me into running, and I love running now. But I also love it when people are just like, since watching you, I started this business or did
Yeah.
this thing that I wanted to do. So yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, just like I was saying before, like these fitness journeys, they can ultimately inspire people to get up and just create change within their own lives. And I think just like pushing your fitness ability to the next level really just opens a can of worms for what your inner potential is. And I think I mean, it doesn't surprise me if you're getting people that say, "Hey, you inspired me to run," which is great. You inspire me to start a business. You inspire me to do X, Y, and Z. Um, yeah, I mean that's the best thing about doing stuff like this, where you're documenting your journey along the way. You don't know how it could ripple effect and help other people out there, which is amazing. We'll get
yeah.
into quick cues now. What are daily routines that help you operate at your highest level?
Hmm. Let's see. I'm not like a crazy routine guy.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's kind of, you know, may surprise you, or maybe not.
How about
But
this? How about even if it's not a routine, maybe
I
something that you try to do weekly or something monthly that
yeah, yeah.
you find helps
Okay,
you?
I'll just go for it. I'll go for it. I'm a weird. It's kind of weird, but I'm a
We're,
big like bath guy. I
love
love
that.
taking
We're all
baths,
weird, by the way, bro.
and
So don't you worry.
yeah, jacuzzis too. If you have like a jacuzzi near someone's house
Mm,
or wherever you live. Um, No, I think there's something about like in water, whether you're going in the ocean or just taking a shower, like it's a super kind of meditative state.
mm.
And yeah, I try to do that as much as I can. Um, love that. uh, I I wouldn't say like I meditate a ton. But I do like have these like inner mantras every time I wake up in the morning. I try to think of like as present as I can be. I'm awake, I'm alive. Where am I? What do I have in my life?
Mm.
What am I grateful for? I try to do those things. Try to do that when I'm going to sleep as well. Because it's so easy to just get fucking wrapped up in
Totally.
all this chaos. And yeah, other than that, man, just trying to live my life
I love
better each day and
I love that.
try to enjoy the moments,
And
you know.
I love that. If you had to tell yourself one motto every morning, what would it be?
One motto every morning. Um, hmm.
What's one?
Today could be like the best day of your life. I
Mm,
think that would be a good one.
mm, that's good. Today could be the best
Yeah.
day of your life. I like that. One book and one podcast recommendation.
The Bobby.
Let's
The Bobby podcast.
go.
uh,
Da-na-na-na.
that's a good plug. No. Uh, one book. There's so many books out there, but let's think one book. Hmm. Mhm. All right, I'll say there's so many books out there again, but Simon Sinek, Start with Why.
Great book.
That book, I think I'm just so like loyal to it because when I read that, like where I was at in my life, it was just like, oh, like, it's not about what you're doing, it's about why you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big kind of like perspective change for me in my life
Yeah.
there. So I think that's probably what I'd say for that. And then podcast, ah man, yeah, I love your podcast. Another one I would say, I'm trying to think of like, I mean, it's super mainstream. I love the Joe Rogan
It's great.
experience. Just it's entertaining
Especially
and
running too. I mean,
he's
his pods are 3 hours.
yeah.
You hit play and you're good for half the day of running.
Yeah, another great for runners, the Rich Roll podcast.
Incredible.
He kills it,
And he's a big
and
runner too. I think
yeah,
he's a big runner.
yeah, yeah. So anytime there's like ultra runner podcast, I love it. On on YouTube, I recently got familiar. I think she went on to Joe Rogan's podcast, but it's Courtney Walter, I want to say. Have
Okay.
you heard of this girl?
No.
She's like leading the sport of ultra running right now, and she's just like a beast.
Mm.
Like if I'll send you
Yeah,
some of
send
her
me. I
videos
definitely
after
want to. I
this.
want to peep
But
this.
like and you would not expect it. It's not like she's got that like David Goggins like personality whatsoever. She wears baggy shorts at these competitions and just
Bees.
beast. Like it's cool.
Damn. Yeah.
So
Send me the link after that. I want to. I want to check. I want to check her out.
yeah, but that's why I love podcasts because again, it's about learning about other people, how they live their life, and
Yeah.
taking little
Little gems,
things that
little
you like.
wisdoms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
100%. That's why I call it the beard of wisdom on this podcast. Taking a little beard of wisdom here and there.
yeah.
What's an area of your life you need to put more effort into?
Ooh, trying to think. That's a good one. Probably nutrition. I
Mm.
feel like nutrition and maybe a little spirituality. Like I feel like that one's like they're all ongoing, but I feel like I've really hit hard on relationships in
Mm.
the past year and been very especially with the pandemic and COVID and everything, it's like I feel like loneliness was really on the rise before that, and then after that, it's like, really important to have strong relationships. So I've hit that one hard, but definitely nutrition. I think I need to. I don't know. When you run so much, like I can get away with that, like just eating a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, even with the amount of calories you're
Nasty, but
burning, you can pretty much, I think, eat anything you want because you're gonna fucking burn through it.
yeah,
But in the long haul, I think it will benefit your
yeah. The
body.
sweets, the sweets, the
Yeah,
sweets. I need to
yeah,
lay off the sweets a
yeah,
little.
I know that, dude. I got a good sweet tooth for myself, so I feel you on that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what's the first step anybody can take to reaching their inner potential?
First step. Ooh. Um, hmm. I think we're like really good at, we've kind of talked about this, but like planning everything out and all these scenarios and possible outcomes. I think of like the not least minimal effort, but like logistically, what do you need to do first to get started with whatever it is? Um, so if it's running, maybe it's like, oh, I don't have running shoes. Let me go buy some running shoes. And then after that, it's like, oh, okay, get some maybe, I don't know, athletic shorts, whatever. Um, put on sunscreen, stretch,
Mm,
go out, start running.
mm,
Like uh, just taking it one again sounds so mundane, but like one step at a time, literally. That's how you do it. And because if you're thinking about so much or weather or all these other things, like we're great at coming up with lots of excuses or things to get in our way. So I still do that. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's like we're all really good at that.
It's
But
the micro steps though. I completely agree. Don't think about how far you're going to run. When I go out and run in the morning, I don't think about the amount of miles. I
yeah.
think about, let's get to the end of the street. Let's cross the street. Let's get down to
Like,
the
what
end.
was your first step with creating the podcast, for example? Like, what'd you do first? Do you
Wow.
remember?
Um,
Create a name, maybe, or
so there was a lot of there was conversations about, do I want to do this podcast? Do I not? At the time, I was doing a different show called Purpose in the Youth. That was the first show that I hosted. There was this concept I had. I was like, do I do it? Do I not? I was bouncing the idea off of with one of my homies, and ultimately, what the commitment for me going, do I, should I, could I, was buying the audio equipment. So I bought
you're in the hole financially a little?
I
Yeah,
bought really good equipment
yeah,
for the reason that, one, I knew that podcasting, it's long periods of time, people listening. I had the money that I could invest in the equipment. I was like, I just want to, from the gate, I need to provide high quality audio if I expect people to listen to this for an hour long. And two, if I buy this equipment and I don't put this to work, I'm going to have $1,000 worth of audio equipment sitting in the corner of my bedroom. I maybe had a couple grand to my name at the time. I just graduated college, like college loans kicking in 6 months. I was like, if I let that sit and I don't actually put this equipment to use, I'm going to be pissed at myself. So for
mm,
me, it was thinking it through and not just like jumping it, like it's not like, oh, I want to go learn how to surf. Let me just go buy a board tomorrow and go do it. I think you got to be somewhat logical. Don't just throw money in the fire and let it burn. But I had sat on the idea for like 2 months and thought it through for quite a bit, where I was like, okay, I know I want to do this. So let's just buy really good audio equipment. And then exactly what we're talking about. Bought the audio equipment, got that. Then figured out the name. That was one day. The next day I'd
mm.
figure out like, what's the audio program I'm editing on? Cool. What's the name of the show? Cool. Let's build a website. And then boom, 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 boom. Then you start going.
Yeah,
But it takes that first initial step. And then you're like, all right, now I just have to keep chipping away and learning
yeah.
as I
And you
go.
get excited throughout the process too. It's like once you like hit those check marks, it's like
Totally.
you're on the board in a sense. So
Totally. It only gets better as time goes. That's the crazy thing. It's this pure excitement. I think of life so much like, kind of, I talk about this in other podcasts, but just so happens that you're a runner. But I really think, and I knew this from the gate when I launched that first episode. I don't know where I learned this insight, but it was maybe from listening to other podcasts. There was a lot of different things, but I knew that launching that first episode, I knew it was me running my own marathon. So I knew at the starting
mm,
line, me launching that first step, I'm going to get a lot of plays. Everyone's going to be sharing it out. They're going to be like, Bob A starting a podcast. I'm going to go check it out. Boom, 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 boom. And I said, I know. This is before I even launched. I go, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. It's just going to dive down.
mm,
It's going to hit this crazy peak and it's going to keep tanking. And it's
mm.
exactly what happened. And then that's when it becomes it. That's what it is across the board. And anything that you're trying to do, you're going to have this
Wow, that's a cool
crazy
analogy, man.
excitement in
That's
the
cool.
beginning. Everyone's at
Yeah,
the finish line, or excuse me, at the starting line, cheering you on. You
yeah.
got to go do it. But then it is just a you race, and you're
The
out
meat of
there.
it, you're on your
You're
own.
on
Yeah,
your own, and you're going to have people on the sideline still cheering you on. But it's never going to be like it was at that starting line. And you better
interesting.
believe
Yeah,
that when you hit those big
yeah,
milestones, just like when you cross that finish line, everybody comes out the works and wants to cheer on for you.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
just had that perspective from the beginning, and it was crucial because getting a lot of plays that first step, drop, drop, drop. And at
yeah.
that point, I was like, it's just a numbers game. I just have to stay consistent. And every week I put up an ep, I was like, it was like getting a mile under the belt. I was like, got one done. Now let's get to episode 2, to 10,
Just
to
keep going.
15. And
Yeah,
so that's kind of always been my
it's so
mindset.
impressive, man. It really is.
Yeah, just I mean, it's like anything, man. You just put in the work, and it takes time though. I mean, you're getting to see the product of 5 years in the game, baby. And we still got a lot more room for improvement. So it's
Let's go.
been an incredible ride. As we wrap up this podcast, I always allow the guests to put a challenge out there to the listeners. If they listen to the podcast and made it this far, what is one challenge that you have for the listeners today?
Okay. Let's see. Um, Whatever, I guess, time you're listening to this, um, maybe stop what you're doing. If you're doing other things than listening to this podcast, and I guess after I say this, think of like one thing you're grateful for, just one thing, and maybe meditate on that for a couple seconds and go forward on your day or think of some more things. But I definitely think gratitude has helped me a lot, especially in my running journey of just being able to be conscious of all the things that I have and be grateful.
That's good. I actually have the word gratitude tatted right on my thumb as a daily reminder.
Oh, let's go.
And so every day when
Nice.
every day when I go out to run in the morning, when I get out the front door, I shut the door behind me, and before I go out, I literally stop for a second. I just look up and I like see the palm trees, the sun, and I tell myself out like, you have to be grateful that you have the ability right now to go out and run. And there's been times where I've been on Venice Beach running, and maybe it was a day I didn't want to run, and I see somebody that clearly physically isn't able to run because they're in a wheelchair or whatever, and it's immediate, just like me to myself saying, you better shut that inner voice in your head about complaining about this run, and you got to do it for this person and for yourself. And so it's always just trying to remind myself, like, be grateful that you have the ability to run. This is
do it because you can.
Do it because you can. Don't do it because you have to. Do it because you can.
I like that.
Exactly. Brady, this has been an absolute pleasure. I wish, we were in person to do all this, but I'm blessed that we're able to do it through platforms like this and allow me to connect with people like yourself.
I feel like this could be a foreshadow to you coming out to Charleston, running with me, and then we'll do another podcast.
Oh, that sounds good to me, dude. Like I said, my sister's in Charleston until about September. I was out there in February. There might be another chance that I might be coming back before she moves. And if I go out there, there's 1,000% chance that I'm getting in a marathon with you. But dude, big fan of you. Appreciate you taking the time today. Everything about your story, like, this is so beautiful. And I challenge you to continue. I love that you said you got you have a full-time videographer that's going to be documenting, this next chapter. And I think that is only going to take what you envision and want to do to that next level, because when people can visually see you doing these miles and talking about the journey and like piecing together these pieces along the way, I think it's only going to more emotionally connect with people. And so my challenge for you, man, would be just like, keep sharing the story, keep sharing that message, keep getting in the miles, because it inspires me. I know it's going to inspire somebody that hears this today. And man, just a big fan, and I'm going to be rooting for you every step of the way for this next challenge, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this podcast, screenshot this episode, post it to your IG story, tag Brady. He's at Project 608 Official. Tag him, Project 608 Official. Tag me at Bob A, BO, 3 B's, 4 A's, and Y. Share out the podcast on your IG story and let us know what you thought of the episode. You can also purchase his book, 9 for 9, on Amazon. Highly suggest you get it. Great looking dude. Just got it in the mail today. Going to be diving through this book this week. So support this man. 9 or 9. That's the number 9 spelled out FOR, and then 9 spelled NINE. All your socials linked up in the description below. Make sure you guys and gals give him a follow. And Brady, thank you again for taking the time, man. This has been a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. It's the Bearded Man Podcast. See ya.